Today's project is an animatronic robot. This robot I'm calling BabyBot because I've dressed it up to look like a baby. You can decorate yours to look like anything you want. You can make a pirate bot or a ninja bot or just a plain cardboard box bot. So today, for this video, I want to talk about the supplies that we're going to need to make a robot like this. So let's move her back. So the first thing we're going to need is these plans. And these plans will be a PDF attached to this video and probably other videos as well. And you can see there's a lot of parts that need to be made. So I would consider this an intermediate level complexity of a robot. I will put some links in the description for a less complex animatronic robot that was made by the good people over at codejoy.org. It uses only 2 servos. This one uses 4 servos. So I would consider this intermediate because we already have one that uses 6 servos, and we'll be looking at that perhaps next after we do all of our videos, because there's going to be a lot of videos about getting this little guy working. And so when we're programming it, we'll be looking at how can we make it do things that we can notice, like saying yes, saying no, or even sneezing. Okay, so let's look at what types of materials we'll need. Obviously, since it's made out of cardboard, we will need some cardboard. So, cardboard. Going to need a bit of cardboard because we have to make all of these different things. What else are we going to need? Well, we'll need some glue. And we can use hot glue, like this. If you're old enough to use a hot glue gun, these get hot at the end, so you can get burnt, so you will need to ask your parents about using a hot glue gun. If you can't use a hot glue gun because it's too dangerous for you, then you can certainly use something like an Easy Stick. And Duck makes a brand, and Scotch, I believe, makes a brand where you just take this and you roll it across the surface, and it leaves a trail of glue behind it, which becomes permanent, and that will stick very well. So you need either a hot glue gun, or you're going to need something like this to stick the cardboard together. What else do you need? You're going to need 4 rubber bands. Fairly strong rubber bands. I've got these. You'll need something to cut with, and that can be scissors, and unfortunately we might need a utility knife with a very sharp blade. Now, again, if you're not an adult, you'll need to ask your parents if you can use a tool like this. I asked my mother 60 years ago if I could use a tool like this, and she said yes, so I'm still grandfathered in to being able to use a knife like this, you might say. So I've already checked with my parents. You should too. What else do we need? We're going to need some servos. We're going to need 4. As I mentioned, there are 4 servos. And we're going to need 3 of these small servos. And these small servos are called 9-gram servos because they weigh about 9 grams, more or less. I don't think they all weigh 9 grams. That would be kind of silly because some have plastic gears and some have metal gears. So I think 9 grams is just kind of a name we give these now. You're going to also need a 55 gram These are called standard servos. They're bigger and they have more power than these little. These are sometimes called mini servos. So you're going to need 4 servos, 3 small and 1 big. What else are you going to need? You're going to need some jumbo paper clips. Now these jumbo paper clips are of a size that you can take them and you can straighten them out and use them as linkages. And it turns out that when you look at one of these servos and you look at what's called the horn is the little thing that you put on there to turn things around, push and pull. The holes in this are just the right size for a jumbo paper clip to go through without a lot of wobbly in it. So jumbo paper clips, they're also pretty strong. They don't bend that easily. So we want jumbo paper clips. Put these away. Don't want to lose it because you only get one per package. Well, you get several, but that's my favorite one. I don't want to lose that. Now, if you can't use something like a utility knife, your parents might let you use, these are called sewing scissors. They're small, they're sharp, and they can cut small little parts. You can cut out the eye holes and stuff like that with these if you can't use a knife. We're going to need some pliers and such. Now, to bend these paper clips, we're going to need an assortment of pliers. I don't know how many you'll need. I have a bunch, but that's just me. I've been collecting tools for 70 years now, so I have a few tools. Now these are called needle nose pliers. They come in different sizes and types. And usually I will use 2 of these, but you could use a pair of regular pliers to do the same thing. Some way to cut. I have these wire clippers, but you could just as easily use the cutting tool that's often included with a pair of needle nose pliers. I also use these. I found these for making jewelry, and what I'm able to do with these is make this tiny little loop at the end of a paper clip. You can see how that is. And what that's going to do is when we make the face, we're going to have these little places where we're going to want to use to move our parts, and we're going to put this right onto that, and then we're going to use that along with the servo to move the part back and forth. And as you can see, this moves our eyelids. So we're going to need that, or some way to make that. Now you should be able to do that just as easily with needle nose pliers if they come to a relatively good small point. So either way, so we're going to need some pliers and stuff. What else do we need? Well, we're going to need some sort of expansion for our microbit. We're going to be using a microbit to give it its intelligence. You can see it looking around. It's obviously intelligent. And this, for example, is Wukong made by Electreaks. And the important thing to notice is there are servos here. And there's at least 4. So that's a good thing. Now, you can use a lot of other boards. Some are more expensive than others. This board here is made by DF Robot, and it's a fairly old expansion board, so it's not very expensive. So it's about $16. I ordered a couple of these from Amazon, and as you can see, they have servos. They have room for 8 servos. So that's plenty of space for our baby bot to have 4 servos plugged in. And we also need a microbit. And this microbit is telling us on the screen what BabyBot is doing right now. And different numbers indicate it's trying to do different things. Okay. So we'll need an expansion board. So we've got our cardboard, we've got our expansion board. There's another couple of things we'll need. We'll need a nice black magic marker, like a Sharpie or something. That's how we get those little eyes on there. We're going to draw them on. We'll need some white paper. You can see it right there. What we do for the eyes is we have cardboard backing, white paper, then we draw these eyes on, and then we put a layer of clear packing tape to give it a little bit of shiny kind of effect like eyes have. And that's how we are going to make the eyes. So you'll need those parts. Well, you don't need the packing tape really. You don't want to do that. I also recommend you get some glue stick. For example, when we glue the paper onto the cardboard eyes, glue stick comes in real handy. You can rub it on the back of the cardboard, lay that cardboard glue down onto a piece of white paper, cut around the edges, and you've got your eyes. We're also going to want to use, and this is something you're going to have to talk to your parents about again, thin super glue. Now, it says right there, thin. Super glue comes in different concentrations, different viscosities, if you will. And the one we want is thin. And the reason we want thin is we're going to put this on the one face of the cardboard. It's going to soak into the paper fibers in the cardboard. And when it dries, it's going to become very strong. The cardboard turns into something very strong when you soak it in thin super glue. And the reason why I say you should talk to your parents is that you can glue your fingers together pretty easily. Another problem with this is that when we spread it out over a large area, the fumes that come off of it are also increased because it's drying so rapidly, because it's spread over a large area. So you will need to be aware of the fumes and perhaps have a window open or a fan going or something of that sort. So that's why you need to ask your parents about using this. And you're probably going to want to have some acetone. If you're the kind of person that gets his materials all over himself like I am, you are going to need some acetone to unstick your fingers once they're stuck together. Acetone is what you use to unglue yourself when you've glued yourself with a little super glue. So that is what we need for our project. Don't forget the cardboard. I've been saving good cardboard for a while now. Okay, so we're going to end this video here so that we can start our next video. Okay then, till next video. Thank you for watching.